Thanks, Gareth. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's wonderful to see you all. I wish I could see you all on my screen. I can only see one page at a time. It's already been a long enough winter. I know we don't want to talk about the elephant in the room. We've talked enough about that and heard enough on the news every day, but it's certainly refreshing to see our membership and community resident members and friends joining us here today. We certainly miss you all. We're looking forward to getting you out here in the sunshine very, very soon. We're on the better half of the winter, the downside of winter here, with the lights at the end of the tunnel, if you will. And we're looking forward to having a wonderful season in 2021 with you all. Today, we've got a special program for you. Hopefully it's a nice little reprieve from the doldrums of winter and watching reruns of your favorite shows, etc. We've got Gareth Raflewski, who you all know and love, and to talk about putting, which is his forte, as you all know, and of course his latest putting aid, which is the Raflewski Tour putting mat, which to give you a little bit of feedback, we've sold almost 30 of them in the community already in less than a week and a half when they were released. They come from BC, from our main distributor there, and I'm told from the distributor that the other night Gareth's mat went viral from TXG's Ian Fraser, who posted a really interesting video, and he's got a ton of followers, to say the least, and they've sold out. So I've got another shipment coming into the Pro Shop in about a week's time, and if you do would like to purchase one, please let me know by either letting me know in the chat here today, send me a message, or just simply send me an email. It's my email address. If you don't have it, it's tyler.vaillant, VAILLANT, at riverbendgolf.com, or simply leave a message at the Pro Shop until we're able to work full-time at the shop, which is hopefully sooner than later. If you'd like to purchase one, they are $99 member price. And again, this is more for your entertainment. Again, for those of you who do want to purchase one, I know quite a few of you already bought them, like I previously mentioned. But there's not a lot in the next shipment coming, and then I won't be able to get the next wave until April, I'm told. They get restocked. So if you do want one, I just want to mention that you need to let me know as soon as you would like to do so. So again, just to let you all know, if you haven't heard, Gareth is received the 2020 PGA of Canada Teacher of the Year. It's his second national award. In 2018, he was also named the Canadian Teacher of the Year. As you know, he's won multiple Ontario recognitions as well, including the 2020 Teacher of the Year for Ontario as well. You know that I'm certainly exceptionally proud of him. I know you are as well. And before I turn it over to Gareth, just wanted to mention that we appreciate him putting his time forward. He's been online a lot, working with his students and also working with us getting the year set. So you've heard me speak enough. So let's turn it over to Gareth, and he's going to talk a little bit about some putting and the new putting mat and a few of his other training devices. Thanks, Gareth.
No problem. Just gonna, Ty, you can mute all there too, because you're a co-host. Hello everybody, and welcome to my house. Actually, this is my basement here, where I can escape and hit balls and do things during the winter. It's a great little spot. It's also one area that I just come down when you've got thoughts in your head. You guys are all lucky because you just leave your house and go straight to the range, and it's 2 minutes away. I'm so jealous of that there, but I come downstairs and hit balls. Ty, I just seen somebody else coming in. Can you just admit them when they come in too?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So thank you all for coming, and looking forward to sharing some putting things. If you want to follow along, grab your putter. Like if you want to chat, we're going to talk about a few different things. If you have it nearby and you want to do it, grab your putter. We're going to talk about a few different things and a few things to work on. We are recording this as well, so we will be able to have a chance to go back and review it and look. So you don't worry about writing anything down. Just sit back, relax, and we're going to take you through some of the new putting mat stuff that we've got here. So I thought I'd do a little introduction just to the setup for putting. It's a bit different than probably the full swing for a lot of you who sort of set up the same way. So a couple of things that I can think about here is I'm just going to move this because I can kind of see what I'm doing and what you guys see, so you can see me properly. There we go. So one of the things that I really like to work on with players is making sure that they get the club in the lifeline of their hand. So if you're a right-handed golfer, you're going to grab it with your left. If you're down with it, then it's going to be your right. So please excuse my cat. He may jump in here and attack us as we're going along, but he's harmless, I promise. So if we look here, one thing that we're looking for is the shaft that runs right along our forearm. So when I put it into my hands, you'll notice that it runs through the center of my hands. The reason this is very different because when we have it here, we actually don't have a lot of leverage. So when I move in here, it's hard for me to really do too much. Now, if I were to grip it like my normal golf grip, you're going to notice that it's much more in my fingers. Now, the reason it's so good to have it in your fingers is that when we're swinging, we want to be able to create that leverage. We want this to be able to bend and move. If I have it in this way in the palm of my hand, I just can't do that. I couldn't even get it past this point here. So there's no leverage. So there's no way to me to generate any speed or any rotation, which is not good for full swing. So first thing you're gonna do, if you have your club there, if you're watching later on, that's great too. So you're gonna grab it, get it through the lifeline. What you want to feel is the weight of the head. You want to feel like it's almost kind of drooping down there and that your wrist is sort of bent downward. So down cock versus where we would be with our full swing. So once we get into that position, we're going to put our other hand on. And what we're trying to do is do the exact same thing. So with my right hand, it slides up my forearm. And now we're in a nice position. And from here, again, I just love feeling the head moving down. What that does is it creates a little less face rotation. So those 3, 4, 5 footers that we struggle with all the time, we don't tend to miss them nearly as much just because club can't rotate that much. You know, if we can minimize the amount of rotation, it means the club face squares up a lot easier. So then our lifeline. From there, one of the simplest things to do is just pull the elbows in till they touch the side, and then we just bend forward until we're in our posture. Now, depending on how comfortable you are, you know, obviously I would never recommend Michelle Wee when you're down like this here, you know. Maybe work for her, but your back's not going to thank you for that type of movement. So what I try to do is get into a nice athletic position where I feel nice and comfortable. That for me is kind of bang on. So I'm in a nice, comfortable position. I feel like if I went out to putt like this, I could just, it'd be very comfortable. Like I could hit a bunch of putts. I wouldn't be sore. I think what happens a lot of us is we try to get into this posture where it looks similar to golf, you know, where, you know, we've been told a million times, stick your bum out, you know, get into this. You know, this is already painful. And if I'm going to putt, my back's going to be killing me and I'm just going to avoid the putting green. I'm not going to bother practicing. So, again, the big thing, comfortable. We don't have to have this perfect posture. I'm just comfortable. You'll even notice in my back here, it's almost a little rounded. And I really like that there because it allows everything just to fall and hang naturally. I'm not trying to really control too much. And it allows the putter head to move freely. Now, the posture is really important because when we talk about the mat here, and if you guys, some of you already have the mat, that's great. If you don't worry. You can just put down some coins or some markers. Try and find something that's in a straight line. So the reason I designed this is that I noticed from you guys working with you and then working from tour players from week to week, there was a significant issue with them misaligning. And, you know, it's not like they're not skillful. It's not like they're not aiming it correctly or don't know how to do that. It's that their eyes were changing from day to day and they just weren't quite sure where they were aiming. Like, you know, you'd have arguments with them on the putting green and they're like, I'm aiming left edge, and you have to put a laser down and show them they're aiming outside the right of the hole. And I always was curious, like, how could that change so much? Like, what's the reasoning? This drill is basically a dot drill. So sometimes you might see people with a string line. So the reason I don't really love the string line, I didn't put a perfectly straight line down there, is that if you look straight down it, there's nothing for your eyes to interpret. Like when you look down this line here, your eyes have to figure out dot to dot to dot to dot if it's in a straight line. So there's a little bit of a calibration there that needs to happen so that you can actually see what you want to see. The big thing that happens, especially for that tour player I talked about who fighting with me, seeing, oh no, I'm right, and I think they're left. The big thing that they're doing is as they're set up here, when they look up and we do this test, inevitably these dots often seem a little bit off. Maybe this one seems a bit left, this one might be right, this one. Sometimes it'll almost look like it's a curve, you know, and they're always doing this kickback. They're like walking behind them. You've got these all set up wrong. They think I'm trying to trick them into some type of a game. Some people see it way right and way left. And all we're trying to do is allow you to get in the same position every time. Those days where you've gone out and you've just set up and you've looked straight down the target and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to make this. You've got that feeling.
Gareth, before you continue with that, it's a great thought. You were talking about posture. We had a great question come in through the chat. What happens for those people that like to putt cross-handed or left-hand low, or they utilize one of these claw type grips that you see Sergio and a few players using? How does that relate to posture?
It's exactly the same way. So for a left-hand low person, so this would be conventional left-hand low as it sounds. For the right-handed golfer, the left hand goes lower. So we're looking at the exact same position. Now, the only thing that's slightly different there is forearm alignment. When you get the left hand a little bit higher, the right hand tends to be a little bit less. So when you come down, you'll often see that the forearm alignment is a little bit this way. Now, this is excellent. Like, so if you're a person that tends to miss their putts left, if you're a right-handed golfer, then the left-hand low technique is really good, because what that does, it now makes the path of the putter start to move a bit more to the right, and that'll counteract some of those left misses. Because I think a lot of people, you know, you've got, you know, and they've got this type of a move with their putting. So left-hand low is a great method to help the people who definitely miss left. It moves the path about 4 degrees, which doesn't seem like much, you know, but it's enough that if you're missing a lot of your short putts, it probably could allow you to make it. But it's basically exactly the same thing. If you're into like a claw or a saw grip, everything else is still the same. I still want to be in a comfortable position. I don't want to be putting any stress on my body here. I want to be nice and relaxed, and I want my arms to kind of flow. Even in this position here with a claw, you'll notice my forearms are perfectly aligned. In this alignment, it's very easy for me now to go ahead and putt. So I would say, it's a great question, but I would say we've got to be careful not to get anything weird with the forearms as we're changing different grip positions.
That's great.
Good, Ty? Okay. And that's great, Ty. If anybody has any questions as I'm going along, we can touch on that point. It's great that we can do it right there and then. Otherwise, might not be as good at the end. But let's talk about the dots here. So what I noticed here is as I'm getting up and I'm getting players into this position and we're looking up, inevitably most people are seeing these dots out of alignment. And there's 3 real fixes for this here. The first fix, if you have this at home already, or if you just put some points down, first fix is moving further away from the ball. So as you move further away, you're going to have a look and see if it looks better or worse. If nothing changes, I go in a little bit closer, better or worse. There's going to be an optimal position that you're going to find that works well for you, closer or further away. So that's the first thing. The second thing is head tilt. I can't tell you how many people that I've taught and like really great tour pros, and their head is tilted sideways. So as they turn and rotate, they're looking at a totally different angle, and the perspective of the putt changes so much. So then the stroke changes and they just struggle so much, and they really don't have to. So it's making sure, as weird as this sounds, get your head on straight. You know, if your head is on straight, there's a good chance. If you have, I have a little mirror here, which I do, and I work at just making sure that when I'm looking at it, you know, it's not in an awkward position, and that allows us to be in a nice spot there. So the head being straight. And the third thing is the head position or the neck position. So often what we do is we have the head a little bit high. Most people will have their head up a little bit high. So for me, my eye socket, the middle of my eye sockets are looking this way, but I'm looking down here. So as I rotate my head, I'm going to be rotating on a different axis. So it also makes this putt look off. So what we're going to do here is gradually move your head down, have a look at it. Move your head down, have a look at it. And for me, I'll just do this for myself. I need to go a little further away. Yeah, if my head's up here, this this first dot looks like it looks a mile left. This one looks way right. So what I need to do is just get my head a little bit more down, try and keep my posture. Okay.
Gareth, if I could just interrupt for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot see Gareth as your main screen, there's a very neat function in the top right-hand corner of Gareth's box. Click on those three little dots, and that'll bring up a selection of options there. And you want to select Make Spotlight, and that'll make Gareth's screen be your main screen. If you should already have that in front of you, but some of you aren't experiencing that. That's a great little tip if you want to see Gareth, enlarge him so you can see a little better what he's talking about. Okay, and if not, please send me a message. Thank you.
Oh, it is tighter without making me bigger. Come on. All right, but no, that's a great point. That you'll be able to see things a little bit clearer, especially with the dots here, because they are very thin. So, like I said here, basic thing that we're going to do, further or closer away, make sure your head's on strip, and then head up or down. So once we know we're in the right position, it allows me to get it bang on. So I have one of these mats upstairs in my hallway, and I literally walk by it every day, and I pick my club up, and inevitably I look up the first time, and I always am left. I always get a little bit too close to the ball, so I always have to move away. And it just calibrates my eyes, just making sure that I'm kind of doing the same thing. And I'm hoping that over time it'll just get me into a better position. I'll do the same thing over and over again. So that's the first drill that we do with it. The next one that I really like, I have there's like a little T-bar here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's just like it's like a little T. And what it does is as I put the club face down, it allows me to see if it's square, open, or closed. So you can see there, I can show you, there's square, that would be kind of a bit open, and that would be closed. And it's interesting because without a reference point, sometimes you'll just put the club down. You won't even realize that you're 4, 5, 6 degrees offline. So this is just something to train that there to make sure that I've got that lined up, I'm in the right spot. And I've just put this little line down here on the mat, and it's basically simulating the little ruler that I designed. So I use that as well. So I put that there, right down. And then one thing I know when I'm set up here is that I'm 100% aimed correctly. So I know without a shadow of a doubt, I'm aimed. If I can't keep it on the ruler, it's my own swing mechanics. It's something to do with my stroke, but it's 100% not to do with my aim. My aim should be bang on here. So a little bit off the right. I take it, but I would definitely take it. So again, giving me feedback. Now, if you don't have something like that, what you can do simply is grab a couple of balls, just make a little gate, 2-3 feet in front of you. And when you set up, you're just going to work and hitting it through that little gate. That's going to allow you to figure out if you're squaring your club face up. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is that even if you're 1 degree off, which I know doesn't seem like much, but in putting it is quite a bit, the ball will still go in at 10 feet. So the Tour Pros will be averaging, so every putt around about 0.4 degrees offline. So plus or minus 0.4. So a bad golfer would probably be in the range of about 1.5 to about 2 degrees of error, face error. So by being able to get this straight through there, you're actually, so the ruler, which is same as the mat, is actually designed with a tolerance of 0.5 degrees. So if you're rolling it down there, that you're managing your club face with 0.5 degrees. So I really like that there. The other thing that I want to make sure I'm working on, especially at this time, when we're all at home, we're all eager to get back out there, I just place 2 balls on either end of the putter. Once I've kind of got it in there pretty tight, I'm just going to go and make sure or see if I can swing through. See there, I hit the one on the left. So that's giving me feedback right away about my stroke. The thing is that let's not change anything. Like, even though you're hitting one of them now, if you keep smashing, then you might have to do it, but I still make this pretty tight. the more you do this, the more you will get that ball through the gates. What that really is telling us is that the strike location on the club face is premium. We're hitting it right in the middle. Now, the interesting thing again with the Tour Pros is that their strike location on their club face is like a tiny little pin. It's so good. And I think that's what makes them such great speed players. So whenever they've got a 20 or a 30 or a 40 footer, they're able to control their speed so well. Now, the new putters do make a big difference, but when you're missing the ball across the club face, the speed does change. Like you could hit a putt where you thought it was perfect because the strike location was a little off. You're giving up about 6 feet. You know, very, very easy. And then obviously in our head and the next putt, then we're ramming by. We just can't get that calibrated. So I just really like this exercise here to get the contact.
Gareth, this is wonderful. I got a quick question to add to that. A few people are wondering, you've also got your first training aid, the ruler. Would that also help with exactly what you're talking about at the moment? Is that for something else?
No, that's exactly the same thing. So if you have the ruler at home, this is exactly the same thing. Now I just put this orange line in the mat to replicate the ruler. Now you can use it with it or without it. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, this is like every single one of my tour players have this because it's just such a simple thing, and it makes the biggest difference. I think like Jin Young Ko, who's the world #1, who I've been working with for a while. You know, obviously I helped her with her putting and her setup and all the things, but she had the work ethic, so she actually just took the ruler and did it for 30 minutes every day. So you know, if you do something for that amount of time, you're gonna make a significant improvement. And having some feedback. And I think the reason I wanted to do the mat was because I felt like every time I practiced at home, I was just kind of hitting putts around, and there was nothing really. I wasn't getting better. I wasn't sure what I was even working on. I was just kind of hitting putts, and I think we often do that on the putting green. We kind of get out and we whack balls around, you know, and we're thinking, oh, well, I went to practice my putting, and then ultimately we go out and we don't see any improvement, and we're thinking, what's going on? There's something's not making any sense. So these exercises are actually drills that I do with the Tour Pros. These are all the exact same things. The only difference is I just put it in a mat, something that we can do inside. So the ruler is an excellent one there. The other thing I put is a couple of little tees here at this point and one up a little bit closer. So we all struggle with those little short putts. So I wanted to give us some feedback. I also have these discs. Now you would have seen them on the green this year, and they've got like a little ridge in them. So that little ridge is basically optimal speed. So what that means is that if the ball's traveling, if the ball's traveling at about if it would go 7 inches past the hole, it would actually roll back off it. If it was 8 inches, it would fall in and stay. But if the speed of it was more than 18 inches past the hole, it would just roll right over the top. So just to give us optimal speed. Now, the ones we had out were different. These are much better. The other ones were so hard to get them in if you were on the putting green this year. These are much better. We spent a long time trying to figure out the right speed. So we'll hopefully have a couple of these out in the putting green this year for you to try as well. So like I was saying, I've got one set up here. When I'm setting up in this little tee position, I'm just hitting putts back. Oh, that's my tendency more times than not. But the one thing I know is it wasn't my aim. I didn't miss that because I missed aim. I missed it because it was my stroke. So let's see. I have a little trick that I do. So for me, my right elbow gets a bit high. So then you can see it kind of gets a bit like that. So the putter starts to move along the same path. It starts to move a bit left and kind of pull it a little bit. So I just have to pull that there, elbow back in there. I know I'm square to the target. Still a little bit left. So again, it's feedback. I love that there. It's not about doing things perfect. It's about getting that information right so that you can set up and hit the putt you want.
Gareth, two things. Another great question from the membership here. What would the approximate speed or the stimp of this putting mat be at?
It's between 9 and 10. So it is a very nice speed. You'll see here if I hit one, we didn't want to make it too fast, like over 10s kind of get a little crazy, but we didn't want to feel like you had to hit it. So if you notice here when I hit this putt, I didn't put a lot of energy into that, but the ball still got right over the end. So it's a nice little speed. The other thing I wanted to be able to do was practice, just have some games, just something that I could do at home. In this one here, I've got a bunch of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we've got -1 and -2 here, but then we got 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So the left side of the mat here is actually a very small quadrant, and the right side is actually a big one. So a couple of games that I like to play is just if you're a couple of people or just yourself, is just trying to get 21. So I'm greedy, so I like to go into the number 10 at the start, and I got 0 because I whacked it too much. So it gives me that feedback of the different distance control. And the other one I really enjoy doing is I just like to go incrementally forward. So I try and hit it into the 1 spot, into the 2, into the 3, into the 4, into the 5. And then I actually go backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what this actually teaches us is how to incrementally make the ball travel a little bit further and a little bit shorter. Because so many times when we're putting, we're out there and we're short all day, and then inevitably what we do is we just kill it, and then we're a mile by, and then we're just struggling. So I wanted to something that would teach people how to hit it just slightly past. Again, like I said, these are all the tour drills. These are like, I'm putting myself out of a job now. So whenever they go out on tour, somebody can just take all of these here. I can work with the players, but they're just drills that we've done over the years that we just thought were really useful. Obviously, if you go down the left side, it's much harder. And then it's just a scoring system, so if you want to have a bit of fun, grandchildren and anything, you can just kind of have a little mess around there. So that's one of the things that I like. I also set it up for the spacing here. The spacing is kind of what a normal stroke for kind of like a 6 or 7 footer would be. So one of the things that it's not here, so my head's not in the way. I didn't want to have something where I couldn't train myself to sort of swing it back sort of roughly the same amount back and through. And you can see from my body there, everything moves the same amount. If you've got excess movement back and then not much forward, you see a lot of that, or vice versa, you're short and then super long. Really I'm not connected here with my body. So I just want to have it sort of the same distance. So these grid marks here is actually what I would set up for. So I'm right in between the 4 and the 5, and I'm just swinging the putter back and through, hitting the cadence for that distance. So I'm not excessively long on the way back or on the way through. That just tightens up the stroke, makes you really compact, makes you a really rich, short putter. And that one's been really good. The other thing, go for it.
Sorry, I forgot to ask the great question that also came in a few moments ago. Obviously, our houses aren't going to be perfectly level or floors. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of finding as level a place as you can? And if you can't, maybe speak a little bit about recognizing a certain break in whatever direction your floor has.
Yeah. So I noticed even in this one already, there's a little bit of a pull off to the left. Upstairs where I have one on the hardwood, it's actually been pretty good. But I've also shimmed a little bit, so I've kind of put a couple of little objects under one side of it just to kind of flatten different areas out. But the other thing is that if there's a bit of break in it, it's actually not a bad thing. You just have to know, if I'm starting off here and I'm going off to this left disc because that's how much slope is in my floor, then I just have to know that, okay, if I started there, then it'll break all the way into that position. But that's a good question. I've just noticed if I put a couple of things underneath it, it tends not to be too bad. But on carpet, you can see a little bit difference. On hardwood, it's actually been the best that I've seen it so far.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So one of the other things that I think is great for you to practice, so I'll try to give you some drills too that even if you don't have a mat, something you can do at home. So I use the discs, but what you can use is actually a couple of coins. So if you stack up, you know, at least 3 coins, 3 to 4 coins, what a lot of people do with their putting is they actually hit down. And because they hit down, the ball kind of jumps and bounces a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to have a slight upward stroke as we putt. So with the coins down, I don't have coins here, but I have just this little cup upside down. It allows me now to go ahead and hit the putt. And if I can hit the putt without whacking the disc or your coins, I know I'm delivering it well into the ball. And what that's going to do, it's going to put a little bit more overspin on the ball. So it's kind of like pool. You know, everybody, you know, a big pool following here at Riverbend. So I'll come a little bit close so you can see me. So anytime that you hit low on the ball, what generally happens if you played any pool is it produces backspin right away. So the ball has backspin, so it's spinning backwards, and then it hits, and then it starts to go the other way. If you hit the middle of the ball, it just goes straight forward, and then it rolls. If you hit slightly above the equator of the ball, it actually produces a lot more overspin right away, and that ball gets rolling quicker, and then it holds its line a lot better. Sometimes we'll hit putts, and we think we've hit a great putt, you may have, but because the ball has got spin and it doesn't have pure backspin, it could be rotating in different axes. As soon as it stops rotating this way and then starts to go forward, then it gets offline. So this is what this drill addresses. It's getting that there strike so that when we hit it, we're hitting a little bit higher on the equator of the ball and just getting that nice little overspin.
Gareth, with respect to fundamentals, can you also explain how a proper setup and ball position can also help with that proper spin you just mentioned?
Yeah. So if we have, if we're setting up here, one of the things that I like to do is I like to have the ball position kind of matching your left ear. So this is obviously the middle of your body. So if you imagine that you're a door opening and closing, you get to this part, the club technically would be, imagine I'm exaggerating here, the club would be moving at the middle point of view, it would start to move up. So as the putter moves back, it's moving down, it hits the middle point, and then it starts to make a slight rise on the way up. That's where you want to strike the ball. And for us, it's getting it kind of just around your left ear. Having it, you know, up on your left foot or back, not really advised, I would say. The big thing is trying to get you square. You know, I think when people set up and they have unique setups, so no, you're kind of down or you're turned sideways. The reason that we've developed those type of setups is not because we wanted to be different, it's because we couldn't see the line. When we were looking down at that exercise, for me to see this line correctly, just over time, our brain kind of figured out, hey, you know what, if I just do this, I'm way better. Your stroke is 100% not better, but you can see it better. And when you can see it better, your body has a better chance of actually creating that motion. So we end up getting into these positions. Now, it worked for a little bit. You know, it's kind of like any good tip that somebody gives you, there's a sell-by date on it. So it hits the sell-by date and then it doesn't work anymore. And you keep trying to work it and do the same thing, but it just doesn't work anymore. So I think the only thing to have some type of really good, consistent results is making sure that you're doing the same thing over and over again. For me, set up, make sure I'm seeing the line right, come in here, make sure that I'm aiming right, some feedback for where I'm starting it, and some speed drills. So I always think about there's 4 kind of key components to being a good putter. You've got to aim it well, and that means you got to see the line quite well. 2, you've got to start the ball where you're looking, which is basically the orange line. 3, you've got to deliver with good speed. So we've got 10 of speed. And the 4th, which we can't do here, is green reading. You know, so understanding how the putt breaks and then being able to put those things together. So it's kind of what we did with the mat, and yeah, it turned out good. It's been crazy the last few days, just putting it on Catalyst, and they've sold out everywhere. So obviously people are seeing some value, and I'm glad that some members have a chance to use it. And Tyler snagged the last few mats there. So if anybody's looking them, just shoot Tyler a message, and he'll be able to deliver them to you.
That's excellent, Gareth. That's a great point. We're just thrilled to see, obviously, the success you've had with this. And I've been getting phone calls from other golf clubs asking me to get some, and I've told them I'm sorry. Obviously, our members come first, and I've got a waiting list waiting on the next shipment. So as Gareth has mentioned, if you'd like one of his rulers or some of his discs, obviously we stock Gareth's products, and the mat being very, very popular right now, and it's sort of a great thing to do at the moment, because we can't get outside, or if you do, you've got to put you have to layer up and put your snowshoes on. So it's a great indoor little activity that you can also learn, but also have a little bit of fun, as he's mentioned, with the little number game that comes with it. It's like playing 21 in basketball, if you will. I do have a few questions that we've came in throughout the presentation, Gareth, and the first one we had, basically, I believe it's referring to Dustin Johnson has a unique routine. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it. I know you study most of these guys, but can you explain what Dustin does prior to putting? Are you familiar with that?
Is that the hovering of the putter more?
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of detail. Perhaps the gentleman could type it in again to me if he's got a little more detail there. But I believe he does something, maybe a little hovering, yes, is one thing I remember. But
you know what I think the best thing about Dustin Johnson is? He just hits the ball, and then he goes and he hits it again.
No, yeah, sorry, there it is. He holds his elbow with his one hand. He crosses his hand over. That's correct. He puts his one hand on his left elbow, I believe. His right to his left.
Yeah. So what ends up happening inevitably is we get separation. So you might see a player do this here, or a player do that there, and that's just getting them connected to their body. You often see, like, Justin Rose does this here. He grabs his shirt and he tucks it under here. And what that does is, as he swings back, it limits the amount of movement. And all the players are really trying to do is to get them connected. And again, like we talked about before, it's getting that nice forearm alignment. Sometimes you arm a little bit higher there. So he's just getting himself squared off as well.
Excellent. That's great. Yeah, now that you mentioned, I do recall that him doing that. The next one that we have is wow, I think you just nailed it. We had another request that perhaps Gareth would talk about the importance of putter fitting. One of our members wrote in earlier today, said he got a putter fit, as many of our members have, with Gareth, and really wanted to thank Gareth, number one, for that fit. But he says he's found a magic putter thanks to the system that Gareth went through. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of putter fitting?
Yeah, it's really, really big. So let me grab a couple of heads here and just show you a few different things. So I think one of the biggest things is if you look at the lines on this, this is a different type of putter, but you look at the different lines that they have. So those are basic aiming tools. There's another one, it's got a smaller head. It's just got a single line. And then you'll notice mine here, mine just has a dot on it. And it's just after testing a number of different aiming parameters that I basically figured out that the line was actually causing me more trouble, because I actually aim the top line of the putter. I don't need the lines in the back to help me. Now, a lot of people do need those lines, and when you're looking at a putter, you want to find a putter that, especially if you struggle with aiming, you want to find a putter that's got a significant markings on the back of it, because it really does help you aim the putter. Now, you have to test this here. Come and see me this summer, and we'll do that there. You know, a lot of times when we pick it up, we've just got the conventional one line, and it might not be doing anything for you. It may actually be hurting you, especially if you're more like me and you just aim it with the top line. This line just sort of confuses you back here, and it gets you into a little bit of a different perspective. So number one thing, you've got to get a putter in your hands that you can aim. That's the first and foremost. The second thing is we've got something called face balanced, and it moves all the way to toe hang. So if I hold this putter here, I'm just going to exaggerate where it is. You can see that the face sits up here. Now, if I just let it go, you can see that it falls down. So this here putter is what they would call a 75-degree toe hang. So that would be 90 degrees. You know, you can have a 30-degree, 45, 60, 75, and even a 90. So when you were noticing me over there earlier, you notice I missed left. That's my tendency. So for me, the most important thing is to get a putter that has a lot of toe hang. Now with toe hang, it means there's more weight on the toe. Because there's more weight, as this putter is moving into getting square, the toe is going to be the slowest part to move. So as I'm closing in here, it's less likely for me to do this and really turn it over and miss it further left. So this is, toe hang putter is excellent for the people who miss left. Now, here's another one. It sits probably, that's about 30 degrees. So that'd be somebody in between. If you've got a face balance putter, you know, you might be a person that generally misses to the right. The face balance putter is excellent because what happens is with a face balance putter, as you're swinging back, the face doesn't rotate. Oh, isn't heavy, so it doesn't rotate as much. So without rotating as much, it's easier for you to square the face off. So those are a couple of things with the styles. I think normally what we've done in the past is kind of again give it a shake. Oh, that's pretty good there. I'll pop with that one, you know. But there's a bit more science to it. Obviously, the shaft has a big part to play. The weight of the shaft will allow you to deliver the putter with good speed. The weight of the head is massive as well. If you tend to finish short of the hole, then you will want something a little lighter. And if you're too long, if you're always finishing short, you'll want a heavier head, something around 370 to 400 grams. If you tend to be the opposite and you're always jamming way back, you can go up to like 330 grams. So the weight of the putter plays a big part. And then obviously what I do is I make sure that the loft of the putter is exact for you, make sure the line is exact. So the guys who are out in Pebble Beach this week, we've had to add more loft onto their putters because Poana grass grows slightly different. So we want the ball to get on top of the grass and roll a little bit differently. So we need more loft. So generally Scotty Cameron's would be about 4 degrees, Ping would be around about 3 degrees, Callaway's about the same. So it's very generic. Depending on how you deliver the putter, I would want to fit you and make sure you get it right. So my putter's got 0 degrees of loft on it because I delivered, you know, I don't have a lot of shaft lean, so I don't need a lot of loft. The ball launch is perfect. So mine is 0 degrees, but you would never find a putter at a shop that had 0 degrees on it because for the general public, it wouldn't make any sense. So they go right in the middle. That's a generic model. And then we go from there. So some people will be going up 5 degrees, some people will be going less. But I say with the greens, and the greens, especially the greens that we have in such great condition, you probably want a putter that's got about 2 degrees of loft on it, unless you're doing something kind of unique.
Great.
There's a lot there. Yeah, we could talk all day about putters. Sorry.
No, that's great. That's great, and certainly to dovetail into that, there's some exciting new putters coming to the Pro Shop this spring. So stay tuned for those. Some wonderful stuff from some top manufacturers that I know our membership really looks forward to. More questions. Thank you. The question's been great. Thanks for all the participation, by the way. We've got a question here wanting to know about head movement. How do you keep your head down through the stroke and after the stroke? Can you talk a little bit about that for a second?
What a great question. And one of the things that I would like to talk to you about is that the reason our heads tend to move is because we've actually engaged it in our posture. So what I mean by that is when I'm set up and I'm very rigid like this here, and then I'm trying to move, what you'll notice is my head is connected to my body. Now watch what happens when I drop it right down. My cat's in the way here. It doesn't move. So what happens is what we're doing here is we're holding all this tension up in our neck, and then our head is actually starting to move. So what we need to do is we need to release that, let that fall down, and then we can just move our body because my head is actually relaxed here. If it's up here, you generally see that. The next thing I want to mention is that, excuse me, cat. I just want to move over a bit. Next thing I want to mention is that when you hit a putt, I really don't like the thought of keeping your head down and still. I want you looking at where the ball is going. I know everybody's saying that's crazy, like, because we're all taught, keep your head down, keep your head down, keep your head down. But if I don't look up, I'm going to get no feedback from the putt that I just hit. I want to know when I hit a putt, did it start where I wanted it to start? Was it left? Was it right? And the other thing is that in my posture, I can rotate my head very comfortably and not move my body because my head is actually independent. I'm not holding it in that posture. So when I hit this putt, I teach all of my players, hit it. As soon as you hit it, you're going to track it. And you'll notice the way I'm doing that is that a lot of people will do this. When they track a ball, they will go and they'll look up. Same thing as when they're looking at a putt, they'll go and they're lifting their head up. Watch what I'm doing here when I'm rotating. So it's a very, very different way to move. And that rotation allows you to separate your head from your body and have freedom of movement. And that's the same when you're hitting the putt. So I want to be able to look up without me like jumping up out of the way.
That's wonderful stuff, Gareth. I can remember the exact, not the exact day, but I can remember that exact conversation the first time you explained that to me. And I thought how advanced that was and how critical that is. And what a great visual you just gave all of us. And I know that's something that I still currently struggle with. And I know that I marvel when I watch you work with a lot of the top players and amateurs that you work with. And that's something that's so critical for them. So that was a wonderful question. So thank you for that one. We do have another one here. I think, Gareth, it was hard to hear at the start a little bit, but the question is, can you use your putting mat for determining the proper through stroke and backstroke and controlling that? Can you, is there drills included on your mat to help with that?
Yeah. So we use the top end here. So I like between the 4 and the 5. And from here, if I just let the putter come back and just let it fall back on the ball, so I have no super acceleration, you'll see that it'll just about get to the end of it. If you're killing it and it's coming off the end, what that tells us is that you're adding excessive acceleration to your stroke. When you add acceleration to your stroke more than just the weight of the head, it has an effect of changing the rotation of the club face, so it speeds up the rotation, or sometimes can slow it down because we're using our hands in the handle. The opposite effect would be if I were doing this exercise here, so I'm right between the 4 and the 5, and I don't even get anywhere close to that there. So that's me slowing the stroke down. And when I slow the stroke down, then the strike changes quite a bit, the energy changes, and the direction has a massive impact. So that's what I use. That's the sizing that we kind of did there at the end, kind of built in. Nobody really kind of would see that there unless we were working at helping people do that.
That's excellent, Gareth. Gareth, can you, I know some of people at home that haven't had a chance to see the mat. Is there any way you could lift that up and bring it to the camera and maybe show those numbers a little more detail? Just so everyone can maybe have a little bit of a vantage point of the mat.
So
there we go.
There's a number.
If you don't have those discs at home, he's got 2 hole cuts at either side of the grid there.
And then a little tee guy. See it. It's not
yeah, it's pretty dark there, the light, but there's 2. Yeah, there we go. Excellent.
Yeah, there's a little tee there. But
also, ladies and gentlemen, I know if you couldn't hear at the start, the mat's slightly longer than 10 feet long, and it's just slightly wider than 2 feet wide. If you're wondering about dimensions for your house.
Yeah, that was a big thing, finding a mat that wasn't too, they're so dinky, they're so small, and then they weren't really doing much. So we had to find and then get enough space that I wasn't hitting, a 9-footer. I wanted to be able to hit something a little bit more and get that feedback. The biggest number that equates to better putting, especially on the PGA Tour, is 11 feet. If you want to significantly become a better putter, especially out there, inside 11 feet is where you have the opportunity to make the biggest advancement. So having something around this distance was kind of perfect. Originally, people had talked about making big long ones, but they're kind of a waste, to be honest with you.
That's great. I'd like to maybe, if we could go to gallery view, everyone here, and if you'd want to select the one of the icons that puts your hand up in the air. We can, if you want to just ask a question out loud, we can maybe open up the floor for a few moments. And oh, we do have a late question here in the chat box. Great, thank you, Ron. Oh, that's not a question. Thank you, Ron. That's for me personally. Great. Let's go to gallery view here, and if you'd like to select in the reaction little spot at the bottom of your screen, there's a little hand up. You can put your hand up there, which looks like a clapping hand, and we can come across to you and unmute you. You can ask a question out loud. Maybe take a few seconds to see if anyone's got some additional questions. I know there's a lot to take in, a lot of information there, and we certainly appreciate all that Gareth went over there, and it was very thorough and some excellent questions from him. Again, thank you for all those questions that have came in. One question I did get, I should share with the group, is will this be recorded if you want to rewatch this? And the answer is yes. We are planning on converting this to a YouTube video so that obviously we can get it out to you all in the membership, and so you can have access to watch that, as well as those that couldn't join us at the moment to watch it live with us. Don't think we're having any other questions here. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely want to thank you all for joining us. We've had a fantastic amount of people join us today, which I really appreciate you spending the time with us. Again, we'd love to see you sooner and later, and it looks like I said earlier, we've got the light at the end of the tunnel here, so hopefully we'll be able to see a little more of you. It's been great to see you all in the community walking around. I hope you're all staying safe and sound, and I know we've all done our share of puzzles and card games, and like I said, I'm looking forward to getting out under greener ground and warmer temperatures. But thank you very, very much. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you to Simon and Tara for helping facilitate this meeting with us today. And again, feel free to send an email to the Proshop or to my personal email accounts. Feel free to call, leave a message at the Proshop if you do would like to purchase one of the mats. I would be remiss if I didn't mention it's very cold outside. We just received a shipment of men's and ladies' toques / beanies. They are going like hotcakes. 'Cause it's so cold. This polar vortex. I've got them in my hand here. These are gray, navy, and black. So the ladies' ones, I have one left. They're very hot. I'm looking at getting more, but it may be a while before I can get them. But again, if you'd like to keep warm in your walks out there, give us a call. And of course, any other needs I can help you with, please contact me at your convenience. Once again, I thank you all so much. It's great to see your faces online today. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to a great season ahead. Gareth, any last words?
No, again, thank you very much for everybody joining. I hope everybody's doing well. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there really soon.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. I'm just